Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, upon me hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. Yeah. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
And I am Anthony Sier, the pleasant welcome to yet another edition of our programs here at Focus on Liberia. We have an interesting topic for today's discussion. The CDC-Unity Party standoff. This has become historical now in the political governance of our nation, Liberia. We have individuals seated, well-versed with the Liberian politics that we are here to talk about. And on the menu, we have the fight against corruption and the Unity Party government under the stewardship of now President Joseph Boakai has launched. But the former administration, CDC, is saying this is not the fight against corruption, but actually this is a witch hunt. Who is telling the truth? Our panelists are here to weigh in. Also on the menu, the CDC protest and the government of Joseph Boakai's response. We will look at the history of the two parties going ahead, one in power, one out of power, with protests and police responding and some violence along the way. If we have time, we will get to a bill of impeachment against President Joseph Boakai that is being contemplated reportedly by the CDC. How true is this? And will it have a serious implication politically and in terms of governance in Liberia? Seated and ready is Focus on Liberia own man Jimmy Eastman, who joins us from the nation's capital, the powerful city of politics. Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to a very intellectual conversation.
Thank you. Another one, he is our own too, is the man Michael Palmer from our program On Point. We share the great state of Minnesota. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. Anthony. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I'm looking forward to a spirited debate and discussion.
Thank you. And talking about feeling great, my man, our governor has been selected the VP.
Yes. Tim Walz has been. I think that was a great pick. Mm-hmm. I was leaning more towards Shapiro, but then after doing a short look into his background and vetting. Yeah, he has a lot of baggage, which we don't need right now. Tim Walz is squeaky clean. He's a former teacher and a former member of the armed forces. He's a veteran. He checks all the boxes, So I think it's a great pick. I think they'll do good.
Indeed, it's a great pick, and I think, man, talking about his punches, they are sharp, and no one can hold him accountable on the kind of punches he would throw. I said, Doe also share with all the state of Minnesota. Mr. Doe, welcome. How you doing? The Pro Minister, I call him.
I'm doing good, my brother. It's nice to be on the show with everybody, and hi to the listeners and panelists as well. Hopefully, it will be an interesting discussion, all in the interest of our country, and we may all have some disagreement where places we agreed on, but at the end of the day, Liberia matters.
Thank you. You couldn't put it right. At the end of the day, Liberia is what that matters. Focus on Liberia Public Financial Management Practitioner is Mr. Thomas Buchanan. Congratulations, term master. By the way, we are proud of you, brother. Welcome to the show. How you doing? How's family?
Family is doing well. Great to be here. So I happen also to be in Minnesota. So it's like we can get off the show and even meet and have the show. So great to be here. Hi to all the listeners.
I didn't know you in Minnesota. I didn't know this. It's good to know. Dr. Clarence Pearson is always here providing his perspective on governance issues, accountability, you name it all. It's good to have you, Dad. How you doing?
I'm good, Mr. Sear. Nice to be on your show tonight. Thanks for having me. And hi to all my esteemed panelists out there and those in the listening audience. So welcome to the show.
All right. With that said, we want to welcome our listening audience. If you have not shared the show yet, please do us that favor. Share the broadcast with somebody in your contact. I continue to say the focus is always the nation Liberia, and we all have a responsibility to move it forward in our own individual ways. Let us do it with this discussion on this topic, the CDC-Unity Party standoff. On the menu, the fight against corruption versus witch hunt. Gentlemen, my first question here is a sharp one. And I will start with Thomas here to lay it all out, because when it comes to finance, public policy, that the main area, Liberian men say the main eat the thing they can. How do we differentiate, Tom, between a legitimate fight against corruption and a politically motivated witch hunt, as the CDC is describing this current administration fights against corruption?
Thank you very much. I think I will just talk about what are the responses that have been coming forth, and what is the position that the current government has taken. But I think what is happening here is that we haven't really seen a kind of energy that is directed towards really fighting corruption in Liberia since the civil war ended. I've always been on this show, and normally when I talk about Liberia, I say the major problem we face in Liberia is our public financial management system. How we convert resources to services. How we collect the money through the revenue authority, get it into the central bank. How do we get it from there, send it to the various ministries, agencies, and commissions to deliver services? That's the entire PFM cycle. And that's where our limitation is. When we get the resources, the way we utilize them in some ways, they don't go towards actually delivering services that people need. And they are siphoned, they are misdirected. People direct them to their personal use. And that is the definition of corruption, when you use public resources for private gain. And part of the broader PFM space is also even how we utilize development funds. We've heard stories of development agencies complaining that their funds have been mismanaged. So since the civil war ended, the first president we had labeled corruption to be public enemy number one. You know, I used to work with someone before who told me that when Madam Salif became president, everyone was afraid. They were afraid to do wrong because they thought she was going to be this kind of tough iron lady that was going to actually penalize people for corruption. But the president told me that once there was an issue on the public work minister, I think Mr. Donzo, and then she actually moved him to another ministry or in another role. That's where people realized that Madam Salif is not going to be very serious about corruption. all through her regime. I think only at the LTA and some other place where she actually had prosecution. And then her second term just became a government. She became a lame dunk president. Rabah Salib took charge, and the government was just ran that way. I could say recklessly. They weren't paying attention much to service delivery. And that's eventually led to the winning by the CDC and brought Mr. Weah to power. He promised in his inaugural speech that he was going to go after people who were corrupt. He didn't do it. He ended up running a government over 6 years that really did not fight corruption well. The last time we saw the LACC that he appointed that really took some steps to be able to investigate and move ahead with corruption issues, they changed the law, removed the head of the LACC, and then created a new LACC. So I think broadly the problem with Liberia is that we've not really seen corruption being fought. So now that the current government, with all of the limitations that they have over the past 6 years, they are trying to show some signs that they want to fight corruption. The bigger response that is coming from the previous government is that, hey, we know that we did wrong, but don't just come after us. There were people who did it before we came on board. So you also have to cover all of us. And I think that's a political decision, or that's a policy decision, not political. It's a policy decision that the government needs to make as to where they are going to deploy their resources to be able to fight corruption. Do you go and fight at the point where there might not be documents available now against those that are freshly available? So to me, the whole issue of labeling it as a witch hunt, and I see all these t-shirts coming up to say resist. What is it that you want to resist? Are you trying to resist accountability? Are you trying to resist the recovery of state assets that may have gone to private use? So labeling it as a witch hunt, I think, is just to dampen it down so that the government can now move forward with all of the resistance that we have seen. Because if the CDC had also fought corruption, the Unity Party would have said it was witch hunt. So regardless of whatever it is that anybody does, the other party is going to say, you are witch hunting us. But I think
and Tom, I'm not cutting you off. That's why I asked the question: how can this be done now, for it not to be viewed as a witch hunt? How can we differentiate between a legitimate fight against corruption and what is being perceived as a witch hunt?
I mean, a legitimate fight against corruption is anyone that took state resources, right? You should go after them. The point is, where do you start and where do you end? The argument of the CDC is don't start from 2023 and end to 2018. You have to go beyond 2018.
You think it's the when and now the how they're doing it?
Yeah. The argument is in the context. The definition of witch hunt is in the context of time frame. The CDC says once you start from 2023 and go to 2020 or 2018, it means you are witch hunting us. That means there are other people who did wrong and you are only coming after us. This is why I'm saying it's a policy decision from the government to say, are we going to start here and move backward, or we are going to start from 2018 and come forward? So it is that definition that is creating this whole witch hunt or storyline.
Thank you. And Mr. Axedo, for you, your side, the CDC view the government fight against corruption as a witch hunt. Why you think they are witch hunting some members of your officials perceived to have abused power or trust?
So, thank you. It's a good discussion. Let's start off by clarifying here. The CDC, I have not heard anyone, as a matter of fact, I speak with everyone in the CDC, who will think the fight against corruption holistically is witch hunt. We all agree that corruption has been that one cancer that has eaten up our country over a very long time. Our argument, to be very specific, is when a government decides to fight something that all of us agrees with and decided only a perimeter of individuals and a perimeter of time, then it is not the actual name fight corruption. It is the perceived political advantage you want to have. So we call it witch hunt. Let me give you an example. Agree. You want to fight corruption from 2018 to now. Okay, that's what you want to do. Good, let's do that. If Samuel Toy, according to you, allegedly misapplied or took money from FIA, and you decided to go after Toy between 2018 to 2023 December, let's agree. And you have Grisby, who also took money in the same time frame from 2018 to 2023 from NASCOP illegally, and you think it's okay for you not to go after him. That is the definition of witch hunt. The only corruption you want to fight is the one that concerns X and not the one that concerns Y. Let's go current today.
So one of your crimes, Mr. Doe, I will give you a chance here, is that the individuals being indicted so far, some of whom I think they have issued a rate of arrest, none of them are associated with, let's say, the Unity Party or any other political party besides the CDC. And so you are being targeted. Is that what I'm hearing from you, sir?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And someone argued that why the CDC didn't go after people who've been accused of corruption from the past. A legitimate argument. But we cannot justify.
Did you or did not?
The CDC didn't. Is one of the failures that we agreed on. I've always said that I agree with those who said it. But in my argument, always though, the Unity Party came to power to correct all of the wrongs that CDC did. So if not auditing the past administration from CDC's turning was one of the wrongs that CDC did, I think it is fair for the Unity Party to correct that wrong, since they've come to correct all of the wrongs from CDC. But that's not the main argument. Again, I wanted to end on today. Current. You want to fight corruption? Current. You want to start from current, from now, fine. The first official act of the government came through the inauguration. There was a 650,000 disbursed from the government, the sitting government, to the incoming government. After that has been expended very questionably, the president established a committee to look into that matter. While that investigation was still ongoing, the executive mansion issued a statement praising the leadership of those who mishandled the money. Where is the fight against corruption? Leave that. Calm down. The government received 22 million United States dollars for what they call roads. Today, you can see the roads all around for your own eyes. You can send people to be on the phone and see the roads. When that happened, the budget had not passed. Ask yourself where you got the money from. And now, it was not as if the government was giving the cash money to these people. The government gave them what they call letter to proceed. They used that letter to get money from the bank. That in itself is a blatant disregard for our public financial laws. You cannot have an approval to a vendor to implement a project without budget. Why, if the legislature had not included into the budget that amount you approve for those people to go, how are you going to pay that? So all of these things are recipe for corruption. And if you really, really sincerely want to fight corruption, not fight individuals, you should do it holistically. Once you are on that path, everyone will support you. We don't think fighting corruption is any bad, but we believe targeting political opponents for undue political advantage is a witch hunt. It will not cut the cake. It will not get Liberia anywhere better.
So, Mr. Doe, in short, you welcome the government initiating actions, investigation, and maybe persecution against some members of your party who is alleged of abuse power, except that you want to see the inclusion of other stake actors who are not associated with the CDC, then you'll be fine.
So anyone that managed public resources should be able to account for public resources. That should not be a crime.
And are you aware of any other reports against some of those individuals you might be mentioning or referring to?
like the past?
Yes, the past.
Well, you just need to do a YouTube search from a President Salif's interview with Al Jazeera when she was asked directly about 20 officials, 18 of whom are currently in this government, who have been accused by other reports, and why she didn't persecute them. You want to listen to that?
Don't you think it's fair that? Don't you think it's fair that the Unity Party, at least for now, is focusing on holding CDC or the past government, which is the CDC government, accountable? And CDC had the opportunity to hold the Unity Party officials accountable, and CDC did not do so. You think Unity Party should be blamed for that?
That's where the problem is, Anthony. That is exactly the problem. So the intent here is to fight corruption, right? The intent is not because CDC did or CDC didn't. The intent is to help our country fight corruption. That's the intent. So if that's the intent, that fight should be holistic. That fight should not be limited to, okay, Isaac Doe or in CDC government, he ate $2, we'll go after him. John Paul, Doe or working in CDC government, but a nice CDC man, he ate $2, we'll not go after him. That's exactly the problem. It is not fight against corruption. It is only targeting political opponents for undue political advantage. That's not what we want our country to be in.
Thank you. Let me come to Mr. Pamo. He knows of this movie and the Unity Party and the CDC moving one in, one out. Michael, how do you look at this fight now being championed by the Unity Party? Is this a fair fight? Is this about accountability or trying to go after their political enemies here? Because that's what the CDC sees.
No, I don't see it as a fair fight. I actually see it as a two-pronged approach.
Okay.
One is revenge. There's a lot of people in United Party that are very bitter. They are bitter because when CDC took over, they were removed from their lucrative positions. They were threatened with prosecution, even though they were not prosecuted, but they were threatened with prosecution. And they believe that in those 6 years that they were stifled. They tried to get contracts. They weren't allowed to get contracts. So when they tried to open businesses, and they believed that the government systematically put roadblocks in the way. Some of them tried to get loans and all those things. And they believe that, some even went to court for certain things and they weren't able to get bail. They weren't able to get bond, to get out. It was very difficult. They blame the CDC. They believe the CDC had an invisible hand on those things. So the first approach is revenge. The second approach is to destroy the opponent. That's the second approach. Right now, the United Party sees CDC as the greatest opponent 2029. So we will destroy our opponent. If we can destroy the CDC now, 2029 is a shoe-in for us. We can move into our next phase. And so that's the approach right now.
And Michael, what brought you to the conclusion that this party is not legitimate? It's like going after a political opponent for the future, to deny them the chance of making it back in the government. Why do you think so? How did you come to this conclusion?
I mean, behavior is a very good telltale sign, Mr. Doe, mentioned a lot of things here. He mentioned concerning Grizzly. We're very concerned when we heard what Grizzly did with NASCOR. Think about it for a second. This man was a private citizen, complete private citizen. He wrote a letter to NASCOR, a $500,000 release. Now he is the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs. What kind of letter you think Grizzly is writing right now? And what kind of money is being transactioned? The second thing, we saw Mr. Boyka with 50,000. This man, our poor Boyka, humble man, living on loans. That's how he got elected. All of a sudden, he was giving $50,000. And then we saw the inauguration, and we saw what happened there. And we were very excited when Mr. Boyka, he commissioned an investigation Up to now, we haven't seen a result. And the executive mansion issued a report that they were very satisfied, you know. And then we saw audits, you know, being announced and audits being taken back, you know, all these things. And you know, and you see it. We all live, we live in a Liberian community. We see this stuff. Giddings was another one, you know, where 22 million. And this is not, it wasn't secret. He went before the Senate. He admitted his wrong. Immediately, the Justice Ministry should have started an investigation into that. They haven't, you know. And according to everybody, he was pardoned by the Senate. When does the Senate have the power to pardon anybody? The Senate doesn't even have the power to pardon themselves, you know. And so we see this going on. And when we ask questions, the only reply we get was, "Well, we are supposed to do it." So we didn't do it. Obviously, it's not their responsibility, you know, and that's not justifiable enough. And this is what we see right now. It's not because that's what they see. This is not against ANC, it's not against Liberty Party. They see CDC as that threat. 2029. Until Judge Weah can say, "I will not run," this attack will continue, and it will be targeted until they feel that they have completely destroyed the CDC.
And Jimmy, let me come to you. Is this political bad blood and tension between the two political institutions who are always fortunate enough to preside over the governance of our states actually be clouding their judgment when it comes to the fight against corruption, how for them to really initiate a legitimate fight and not being viewed as pursuing the other? Is that tension, that bad blood between them really having something to do with the way they're proceeding here?
You know, they have a saying, when two elephants fight, that the grass can suffer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one thing for these guys to be politically polarized,
mm-hmm.
one versus the other. I don't see any trouble with that. You see in this country, yeah, you have the Republicans and you have the Democrats. They're different views, they share different values. That is healthy. But what is not healthy in our country is the prevalence of corruption in the country and our tolerance for it. If we, fighting corruption requires strong governance and political will.
Mm-hmm.
And you would know that someone has the political will to fight this because they will start at home. If you want to show somebody, if Rawlings did it, if you want to show with people that you're going to fight corruption, you start at home. You jail one of your own people, one of your own family members, like what Rawlings did and whatnot. And then the people will know you're serious. You start at home. So if they're going, I'm okay with the political bickering, but I'm not okay with the successive administration. We cannot see, the Liberian people cannot get their value for the resources they have. Okay, you have to create independent institutions that can go after anybody. They shouldn't be subject to any political group. They should be independent. Then you have to have that legal framework where you can process cases fairly, correctly in the courts. Not a court that you go there and nothing happens. We need transparency and accountability. We've already seen lack of transparency so early. You mentioned, I heard Mr. Padmo mentioning the funds from the inauguration. Okay, we hear about yellow machines. Till today, we don't know who is sourcing these things. So why don't we have transparency? So I'm just saying, the political thing is one thing, but the Liberian people deserve to have a corrupt-free government administration, and we're not seeing that. No matter how many decades, how many administrations go through, we're still seeing the same thing every time, all the time, and that has to stop one day.
And Jimmy, how do we, or can we see this legitimate fight against corruption. How can a government do it with that government not being viewed as wish?
Okay, I just told you the other day they started the asset retrieval. There was no need to do that. We're supposed to reinforce the existing institutions we have, make them independent, appoint a czar there, somebody that's very strong, somebody very clear, and allow them to find the whatever to discover and go after anybody. But to definitely, when you start picking and choosing, you have already ruined the campaign. Like I said, you should start with your own. Then people will know that today, if they had started with their own today, nobody would say that it's a witch hunt. So there is a way to do it, but we do not see the political will to do it. And it can only happen through independent institutions, an effective legal framework, and transparency and accountability in all transactions of government. That's when we'll start seeing these things. As long as we're not seeing that, we're in for much of the same.
And Dr. Pearson, earlier when Thomas spoke, he historicized the whole fight against corruption. From early time, institutions, efforts being made here and there. And it has always been CDC and Unity Party. And it is obvious now they have actually not fought corruption to the satisfaction of the Liberian people. It's obvious that we might be stuck with these guys for a long time. Are we ever going to get a serious and legitimate fight against corruption from these political institutions and the political actors that we have? Jimmy mentioned the political will.
Thank you, Anthony, Mr. Sia. Thank you for having me. And that's a good question. There are a couple of things here. I think, first of all, as a country, we have to, first of all, sit back and look and see how corruption has destroyed this country to the core. It has kept us back from development. It has robbed us of much needed resources to take people out of poverty. It has led to a few handful of people becoming rich and millionaires today. Since sometimes we are not fortunate to see some people asset declarations, so we're getting to see that politicians are the most richest people in our economy right now when it comes to ordinary Liberians, which is very surprising when it comes to the majority of people who are rich. But I think we should ask ourselves the question: what is it that we really want, Mr. C.A.? This corruption that we refer to sometimes in politics as rampant corruption has led to the death, imprisonment, and execution of our fellow citizens. Samuel Doe is a victim. President Toiba is a victim. The 13 men that were executed on the polls are victims. Charles today in The Hague, if he should come back today, he would also be maybe executed for corruption as well. My Elliot Vigil will probably might catch up for corruption as well. The same go for almost all our political leaders. Now, the question here is that, what is it do we want? Do we want to make a name for ourselves as political individuals, or do we want to help our country move forward? And I think the latter is what we want. We want to see the country move forward. We want to fight corruption. And now you mentioned a very key word. To fight corruption, technically, we need legitimacy and we need integrity. Legitimacy will cover those who come into the fight of corruption. Should be people who do not have their hands dirty and who have no record of public theft. All right, and integrity also comes with that. Is President Boyka taking a very good stand on corruption right now? I would say yes, and I would commend President Boyka for the bold step to even begin to even think on trying to prosecute people for corruption. And if he attempted to act on other reports, I mean, it's commendable. But I do not think President Boyka, as an individual, is the best person to fight corruption. I can tell you why. Because President Boyka is also one of those benefactors of a 12-year rule over Liberia and squander money, to which he admitted that his administration squandered money in the country. And not only that he squandered money, he said he lived on loan, and loan came from Abbey Bank has just been, a former president has just been appointed by him to Central Bank. Is he rewarding Abbey Bank for the loan sympathy he's been receiving over the years? These are all, perceived bias to his legitimate fight against corruption, or what should seem as a legitimate fight against corruption. And I will cite Nigeria as an example, answering, because we learned from experience. Nigeria has had 2 major commissions to fight corruption, but again, they face the same problems we are faced with: political interference. To fight corruption, whatever institutions we have, the LACC, the GAC, those integrated institutions, the GAC, the civil law code, or we can set aside a special code dedicated through the Supreme Court, a special code set aside dedicated only to hear financial matters. And the team that's going to be executing financial crime in our country should not have any barrier to time, space, and individual, that they can reach out to and call to account. And if it means President Boyka can be called to account, he should be able to be called to account. If President Weah can be called to account, they should follow the evidence to where it leads. And if President Boyka is serious, I would say to him, if he's listening to this show, and I want to just say, hats off to our audiences. A few people reached out to me and they said they're asking us to continue in our advocacy, and I see our views continue to go up as we continue this advocacy. Let President Boyka hear this. President Boyka, are you serious about fighting corruption in Liberia? Do you want to end impunity in Liberia? Disassociate yourself from the institution that's going to prosecute people for corruption in Liberia. Be sincere about the fight. Establish support the LACC, support the GAC, support the asset recovery team. Make them independent of any political influence. Make them independent from any judicial interferences. Push for laws that would give certain rights and privileges to people who fight corruption, even when it comes to blowing whistle, so that people can begin to show off those who have squandered resources in the country and have access to those information. Let people be able to come up and prosecute people, not because they are in your government, or they are in Ellen government, or they are in we are government, but prosecute people based on the available information, and make sure that we have the international community aware of our sincerity and the integrity of the process, so that there can be no hindrance to this forward march on the prosecution of corruption in Liberia. That I think, Mr. C, is the best way forward.
Gentlemen, we're going to close on this, and I'll get your final take. And this now will be, how do we make this fight against corruption fair and just, using the institutions we have? Thomas will remind us here that there are so many things being put into place to fight corruption. We have the anti-graft institution, the LACC, the GSC, the FIU, even the Ministry of Justice. I will include that agency of government as, another institution to fight graft in our country. So we have this institution, Tom. Is it the problem of people? Is it the problem of funding? If you contrast that with the US, they have all these institutions and they are working effectively, I want to believe. But when you come to Liberia, is it because the heads of this agency are being appointed by the political actors or the politician? If the individuals are not appointed by the president, so to speak, will they be able to carry on their work, without fear or favor? What should be the solution now going forward? We have this institution already. Individuals serving there are appointed by the president. Is that why? Some of them are associated with political party. Is that why? How can we, use this institution to fight corruption? And that's what I want us to close on. And let me start with Jimmy. Jimmy, how can we do it now?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is now one institution. It will be a combination of institutions. Mm-hmm. One, the people who go after, who will prosecute, investigate, and prosecute corruption. It has to be independent. Just what Dr. Pearson was saying, it can be under political influence. Give them free reins, give them protection, so that they can go and just prosecute anybody from anywhere at any time. It has to be free. And then the courts, the courts that prosecute them, they have to be able to use the legal basis to go through the prosecution, if we do not strengthen our institute, in fact, all over Liberia, if we do not strengthen the institutions.
And Jimmy, my question is it that our institutions are not strong enough, or is it that the heads of those institutions are the ones not taking their responsibility seriously because of political appointment?
They are not enforcing the laws as they should. They are not strong. They are compromised. They are bent. Every single time.
Why are they bent? Where is that force coming from that bending them?
One thing is we all need money. If you want to pay us, let's be honest. If you want a civil servant to be honest, you have to pay them. If that man is hungry and he can't feed his children not in school, you expect him to be honest?
And Jimmy, you think it's about pay because our legislature is well paid, or our legislature, they are well paid, but sometimes they engage in acts against our public financial laws or criminal laws.
Those are the rest. They are part of the problem. It's almost as if it's a club, it's a fashion. It's almost like it's society. When they join our society, just the other day, Dylan started exposing certain things, but before we didn't even know what was going on in there. And with all what we talk, they're still passing bill to get themselves $100,000 and $150,000. What country does that? What country does that? It's right in front of our eyes. They do it every day. And then, so that place you talk about, the legislature, that's one of the worst places, because the things they do are unorthodox, as one Waller would say, unorthodox, and require that each one of them be brought up for misdeeds and misrepresentation of the people.
Tom, my curiosity here is, if these people are not appointed, say, by the president, will they be able to execute their functions without fear and favor and hold people accountable? Is the fact that people are being appointed by the president? Is that why somehow they don't do their work? What is responsible for them not taking the judges as well? Because they're being appointed by the president, is that why they are somehow subservient to the executive branch of government? I'm just trying to find out, why are they not doing their work?
Thank you, Anthony. I think we got a broader problem in the country. And before I come to it, so the argument, I mean, we're talking about two political parties.
Yeah.
But these political parties are not bigger than the state.
I agree.
There are people in Liberia who are in neither political party. They are not member of Unity Party. They are not member of the CDC. They have a right to life. They have the right to services in that country. Every time they elect a government, it is the responsibility of the government to use the resources that belong to everyone to provide services to them, to make them live a better life. We saw over the past 5 years that poverty, instead of reducing, it increased. So there is a popular demand for accountability in the country. Let's not forget that the consciousness in the country is increasing. The internet is adding to it. The diaspora is pushing for accountability. So there is all of this pressure coming to bear. And I think, like I said from the beginning, the political class is not used to this. What the political class is used to is, when we get there, we take ours. Don't disturb us. When you come there, look for yours. And to be very fair, if the CDC makes the argument that, oh, don't only come after us, go after the other people, isn't that an admission of guilt? If you didn't do anything, you didn't do any wrong, and they say they are going to prosecute, just let the process go through, because you will be vindicated in the end. The court will set you free. But that's not the argument. The argument is, don't start with us. Go and start with the other people that were there before us. So to me, technically, you are saying, okay, I did wrong, but I'm not the only person who did wrong in this country. And going back, like Axel said, the mistake that they made, when you listen to the former president, the point he makes is that they decided not to go after the previous government that came before them, because they wanted to maintain peace and stability in the country. And like the national orator said, that is negative peace. To have peace in that country with that level of poverty is not peace. We've seen Kenya. We saw it had a domino effect on Uganda. Now it's happening in Nigeria. Bangladesh just threw out their president. We saw how Sri Lanka broke down. When you don't manage public resources well and you run the country into problem, you are not maintaining peace, because one day the people will get tired and they will overrun the government. So for us to build a positive peace, we need to make sure that every resource that is in that country is used for its intended purpose. So for me, let's not, just look at the two parties. Let's look at this in the context of Liberia, like I was saying. We are the oldest and the poorest. There should be something wrong with us. And because the political class is not used to this, and it's happening, this is why all of this pushback is coming from. So, okay, no, don't come after us. Go after the other people. But to come back to your problem, like I keep saying, we are making some progress. Like I said the other time, when the LACC was created, instead of going the route of other countries like Sierra Leone that gave prosecutorial power from the very time they established theirs, we put them under the Ministry of Justice to say, you cannot prosecute until you go to the Ministry of Justice. If they can prosecute, you prosecute after 90 days. It created some constraint for them. Now the LACC don't have that constraint. They have direct prosecutorial power. And I sent you a video where the head of the LACC is saying that they are investigating current members of the current government. Once they complete their investigations, they will equally indict them and they will go to court. So this argument that, oh, you've not touched the other people, is not an argument that is going to be valid for a long time. Because once the LACC does their investigation, they will come after people. The whistleblower act, President Weah passed it. So these legal instruments they've already been passed. The LACC has direct prosecutorial power. The president is now saying, I'm going after people who were corrupt. So I think gradually we are making some changes. Where we now need to be able to pay our attention is to give them the resources that we need. We see an energized or GAC doing audit left and right. It's just to empower these institutions with the laws that are on the book and let them do their work. And on the issue of the appointment, we see it all over. That's the way presidents normally appoint these accountability institutions. The place their protection comes from is the tenure, which, to be fair, in some of the institutions, it was attacked at the beginning of this regime, but they've stopped. They've now removed people in other places. So that's the way it is done. We just need to give them the resources and let them go ahead and do their work, rather than other group of people say, we resist. So if you resist your own prosecution now, so why should the LACC investigate the other people? Then the other party too will resist. Then we're not going to move forward. So let's give them chance to do their work.
That appears in?
Yeah. I think Thomas made some valid points again, supporting much of what we already said across the panel. Let me quickly talk on the pushback. Look, let me say this. Until we have an independent body void of any political influence, whether by detecting who gets audit or which audit gets implemented first, we'll always have a pushback between the two top political forces that have run the country, because none of them hands are clean. Let me be frank with you. Even if you post CDC in office today, when they go after Unity Party will say the same thing as well. So what are we saying here? Look, it's as simple and as plain as day. There has to be an independent regime. When I say regime, I'm not talking about political party. Institutions, a collaboration of institutions, Anthony CM, that have confidence in our laws. And you ask the question, why is it that they are not performing, right, Mr. CM? These guys are not performing for one good reason. Take, for instance, President Barker comes to power and he denigrates 10 positions. And 10 positions were for a purpose. When the international community propounded the idea of 10 positions during Madam Ellen time in post-war Liberia, is to provide some security against political influence of those integrated institutions, and to provide protection against the institutions that, when they are functioning with independence, political leaders or the president will not just come and arm twist them. And we saw President Barker come and arm twist people to the point that the PPCC became very compromised until we started causing noise. Now they put themselves back in check. We see the PMF law started to get compromised until we start causing noise, and then they started to get back into check. We also saw that the GSC will be armed twisted as well. The LACC is armed twisted as well. What we're saying here is simple, Mr. C. For the president to even send a letter trying to suspend the central bank governor, who's removed for his own legitimate a bill in the House of Legislature, tells you that these guys across in targeted institutions and autonomous agencies don't feel secure. And if they are not feeling secure, then we'll go back to what Bwakari said from the beginning. All his supporters are saying on social media and in the country. Bwakari is only putting people that he can trust, people that can work with him, people that will seek his interest. So what are we telling ourselves? So they are definitely going to be party oriented. They're going to be party sympathizers, and they're going to be party empathizers. They're going to be people who only seek the interest of the Unity Party. What are we saying? To fight corruption, and we repeat ourselves whole day. Liberia needs a court. We don't even have to have a special court of war crimes that we're talking in now. That one a different issue, but Liberia needs a court dedicated at the Temple of Justice only for corruption cases to expedite those cases so that they don't linger in the judicial system. Second, we need LACC, the GSC, the Internal Audit Agency, the IAA. We need all of these institutions that are integrity based, the PPCC Commission. We need them to be solely independent, Mr. CM. And you talk about whether they are appointed by the president. Listen, even the election commission chairperson is appointed by the president through a competitive process, meaning civil society vet those independent individuals and propose names to the president. The president picks from amongst maybe 3 names, and then he appoints them. When that appointment is done, the president should have nothing to do with the integrity, the legitimacy, and these guys as they do their work. The president should not even have the power to remove them. The president should not even have the power to suspend them. The president should not even have the power to penalize them for any action they take while executing their function. They should be removed by acts of impeachment, by bill of impeachment, by the legislature. And why? Because the legislature represents the will of the majority of the people. So if we're saying these guys are fighting corruption, and we're noticing that only laying on one side to only CDC, so the legislature can call them and say, you know what, LACC, we have given you all the money you need. GSC, we've given you all the money you need. IAA, we've given you all the money you need. PCC, we've given you all the PPCC, we've given you all the money you need. And now we see that you're leaning on one side with bias. And we are going to investigate you. If we find you to be in error or in any form of partiality, we are going to impeach you and we'll have you replaced. That is the kind of exercise we need. Other than that, the whole thing will just be a political game where people want to score political score, Mr. C.
And Michael, I remember when CDC was in power, when this 16 billion, 25 million, and then the Crow report, the PRT report, and then there was another report. Members of the government at the time, CDC, said to us, heads will roll, heads will roll. When those heads show up, those were former Unity Party officials entirely. Of recent, we heard from members of this government, heads will roll, heads will roll. We'll go after people. Indictment coming, investigation coming. And when we saw the first list, that's CDC officials. This is a game that they are playing. And I think that's where you're coming from to say this is not a legitimate fight. And my question that I want to ask for you to conclude here is, when is this going to end for us to see a serious fight?
That's a very good question, Anthony. And I wish I had an answer for you. I think the most honest answer I could give you is this will end when the Liberian people wake up and start to empower themselves through their vote to put into office, whether in the legislature or in the executive, honest, credible people with integrity that can actually do the job and do the job, with honesty. That's when this will end. Somebody asked me the other day why I was so concerned about what is happening now with the witch hunt. And they kind of focus on the peace of the country. And I told them, I said, look, my fear is not CDC. My fear is not that CDC might cause violence or disturb the peace. That's not my fear. If you remember, after former President Weah made his speech, the message that came from the CDC camp was, if we had known, if we had known, we're not going to give up this easy with just 17,000. If we had known. If we had known you guys are going to witch hunt us, maybe we would have thought twice before giving up, before the votes were even counted. If we had known. My greatest fear,
in Alaska wars, President Weah is regretting. I don't know what he meant.
My greatest fear is not CDC. My greatest fear is the people that are there right now and what they are doing. And they know what they are doing. And for these people that are there now to give up power, knowing very well that whoever comes after them in 2029, seeing what they are doing right now, will be prepared to prosecute them. My greatest fear is that they will not give up power. This is not the first time we've seen it. We saw it in 2011. Okay?
Is there a danger here the way the two political institutions are playing football with their accountability? Can they make this illegal into some?
I don't see it that way, Michael.
I do.
I don't.
And I will tell you this, okay? Unity Party don't come up with new ideas. It's the same old ideas. Okay, when Ellen came to power, Ellen arrested Judy Bryant, the former president. Well, this is not the first time we see Unity Party come with a high morale about fighting corruption. They came with a team before. And by 2027, they were the most corrupt government in the history of Liberia. So we've seen this movie before, okay? The thing here is 2011. Who can really bet? Who can really stand up and say Unity Party won the 2011 election hands down? Up to today's date, the jury is out. CDC conceded because the international community stepped in and said, look, the peace of Liberia is more important than CDC and George Weah becoming president. And they put that pressure on CDC. And because of that, CDC didn't even, if you remember, they did not even contest the second round. They protested and said, we did not lose. We won the first round. But the international community put that pressure. They said, look, we spent too much money to bring Liberia this far and to sustain the peace. That is the most important. Unity Party knows this. And Unity Party is betting on that. That come 2029.
Michael, I think these guys are just making, in Liberian will say, ham off. When any of them should lose power, I think they will give up power. The history is there. Unity Party did not win. Joseph Boakai was gracious in his consensus speech, just as George Weah did reason it. I don't see how any of them will now win election and want to hang on to power. I don't want to believe.
Votes? You have to understand, Joseph Boakai did not lose by 17,000 votes. George Weah won by over 60%.
And does it matter? A win is a win?
Yes. There was no space for anything. The margin was too big. The whole country knew that United Party lost. They couldn't do anything. But this particular one with 17,000 votes, I'm telling you something. These guys are not going to willingly walk away from power, knowing very well that they will be prosecuted immediately after.
Thank you, Michael. And Thomas,
give me 1 minute. I think
1 minute, please, before I get to
there are a lot of flaws in what he's saying. The issue that happened in 2011 was a blunder by the Elections Commission. The CDC contention was that they wrote them a letter and flipped the votes of the Unity Party mistakenly in the letter. The data was there. But they said the number that they wrote for the CDC, which was given to the Unity Party, was their actual vote because they actually came second in the second round. So it wasn't that CDC won the election and the international community put pressure on them that, George Weah cannot be president now. That is a fallacy. I also
that's
don't.
not what I said.
One second. When because of that thing that happened, the CDC said that Flomoya should step down, and because Flomoya did not step down, they said we're not going to the second round. So in the second round, Madam Sedi, overall pressure that she had was that she needed to get a huge vote. She needed to get a large number of Liberians voting for her. So her issue in the second round was turned out because nobody was competing with her. She only wanted to get majority of it. Also on the issue of the Unity Party, okay, let's go back to democracy. Our constitution says that you win 50% of the vote plus one. Why are we making the 70,000 an issue? Even if George Weah was defeated by 2 votes, he should have left. That is a democracy. Why are we making that an issue that it was 17? Oh, he regret leaving. Whether it was 2 or 3, he should have left. On the other point of Unity Party, or they go to 2029, they said they will not leave. We have not had that history since the Civil War ended. This is why our democracy is praised to be one of the strongest, regardless of the poverty we have. Democratically, we have a strong record. I think if the Unity Party prosecutes the CDC, they have to do well to deliver to the people of Liberia so that they can get a second term. Because the way the people treated it now shows that second term is not guaranteed. So while you are prosecuting people, you make sure you deliver to the Liberian people. Because nobody is going to stay in power by not winning election and you stay in power. You will not do that in Liberia.
Thank you. Let me play the video, Axidor, and you get a final word in this segment. So, Tom, please briefly summarize the video for us before I get to Isaac.
So basically, it's the head of the LACC having an interview with the press and saying that they have gotten intelligence about corruption that is taking place in the current government against people who are serving in the government. And once they do their investigation, they are going to come back, and the same way they have brought other investigations out, there will be investigation and they will go after people who are currently corrupt in the government. So I'm just saying this to mean that we have an LACC that have direct prosecutorial power. They have started to win cases. They won a case against the Planned Parenthood. They have started to show their muscles out there. So anyone that is saying, okay, you are cherry picking, let's just give the LACC chance. They are not going to cherry pick. If you are corrupting the current government, even if the president doesn't want them to come after you, they are independent enough to be able to come after you.
Isaac, you get a final word. You heard it there. The LACC official there is saying, hey, the books for this new administration now coming to our decks. We are looking at them and we will act when the time comes. But we have other reports that have been padding up from the previous administration. So we're starting from there. You are having problem with time and individual and all that. What's your closing? What makes them fight a witch hunt? You got to start from behind, right? But you are saying they should start from in front.
So I will give a little clarity on the LACC concerning other reports issue. But let me say, some of us may not have stayed the longest in government, but we were privileged at least to have served in government. And we were there. When we were there, we were also privileged to have had contacts with the biggest players in Liberian politics. So we know what happens in government at night, what happens on the phone, what happens behind the door. My brother, let me ask you, before this government came to power, a lady who currently works at the NPA or Queen Johnson was charged, arrested, something about a murder case involving one Joshua, and then she ran away when the government came. They said, yeah, we'll look into the case. Have you heard anything about that? In addition, my own brother, Mike Jabate, recently, they arrested Mike Jabate. Where is the case, bro? There are talks and action. So, LACC, yeah, we are investigating the current government. Let's sleep and keep waiting for the time that investigation will conclude. I'm not sure you needed all of the time to have investigated the issues surrounding the $650,000 for the inauguration. I'm not sure you still need time to keep doing that. I'm not sure. So again, talking outside, done differently. This government is not in the right mind to fight corruption, but in the right mind to go after people. But then I want to say, LSCC or the executive don't get to determine how other reports are being prosecuted. That's not how our system of government works. As a matter of fact, the executive cannot prosecute any other report until certain things are done and it passes through a certain channel. Now, if the government were to hire an international firm or outside or a private firm to do audits, that firm will report to the president or whoever the president designates. In this current form, if the GSC conducts an audit, the GSC is bound by law to only report the findings of that audit to the national legislature. The national legislature then will go ahead and have hearings. Based on the hearings, responses from those who were audited, sometimes auditors come up with findings, and then those findings can be, solved. They let it go. If there are ones that need some kind of, prosecution, they then send it to the LSCC, and then the LSCC takes it from there. That's how it works in our system. Now, we are not saying Boakai told GAC to do audits. He told GAC to do specific audits, but don't forget, the legislature is right now looking at 180 audits. That 180 audits is not only coming from the CDC government. It spans a period of 18 years. But what the Boakai administration is saying, regardless of recommendation from the legislature, they will only consider prosecuting other reports that concern 2018 to 2023. And that's the argument we've been having. Now, if the legislature that will go and have hearings on audit decides to recommend an audit report that came from 2017 to LSCC, you will tell LSCC no, put it in the shelf, there we. Then they send another one that came from 2019, you say, okay, that one, go ahead and prosecute it. Then you will not fighting corruption. The government, the executive branch does not get to determine how other reports are being looked at, are being prosecuted. It is based on, from GSC to the legislature recommendation to LSCC. So if the legislature, say for instance, the recent audit report from the CBL, it talked about some 170 million that has no trace. Now,
and as they allow me to cut you off here, the process you are explaining, if that is the process, then one can argue that then the legislature is yet to recommend that the $650,000 for inaugural funds, be looked into. Maybe that's why the government is not acting on it. If we go by that.
No. Let me provide clarity.
Report. So the president can of course call for investigation into allegations of corruption. But if GAC performs an audit, it is by law bounding for GAC to report that audit findings to the Liberian legislature. But if the president himself, say for instance, the president, the executive branch, who hire CRUA or any other, international auditor firm or even local auditor firm that is not governmental, they can report that finding to the president's office because it is different from our laws. But what we are saying, there are other reports already with GAC that don't fall in the time frame of 2018 to 2020.
All right, I say I get your point. What I agree with
30 seconds. The point he makes on audit report is true, but that does not apply to the LACC.
Okay.
The LACC has direct prosecutorial power. When they investigate you and they find that they are like the issue of the FIA. The issue of the FIA, there was a tip up that came and said that the central bank had released 500,000 to an account and it was withdrawn the next day. So that was the tip up, and then the LACC was asked to come and investigate. So LACC investigations don't have to go through the public account committee in the legislature.
Akame, you
like
he's agreeing with you.
No, Akame, he was like combined. He was saying that it doesn't the process also applies to LACC. No, the LACC does not have to wait. LACC come and investigate you. 1 second. LACC comes and investigate you. They go straight to court. So this is why they are straight to court with Samuel Twe and the rest of the other guys. Those who have been who have issues in other reports will have to go to the PAC, and that's why Amara Kona and his committee are having all these hearings. When they go through the hearings, then they can recommend as a legislature to the president, say, suspend this person, recover this asset. So other reports are separate.
Amara is the head of that committee?
No,
yes,
he
in
is
the
not.
Senate.
No, he is not the head of committee. Yeah, he is the head of committee
In the Senate.
But the
and then you have Clarence Guy in the House of Representatives. So they work as a joint committee.
The joint pack members of the Senate and the
30
representatives.
seconds, 30 seconds.
All right, quickly, 30 seconds.
Yeah, just for the listening audience, we should understand that the process that Mr. Doe provided is correct. That other reports are reported to the legislature, and they do an investigation and make sure that those that are found liable for misapplication of public funds are either guilty of as charged or as alleged, and then they can be forwarded for prosecution. That is true. So that our audience don't get it mixed up. That's 100% true. At the same time, if we do have the recovery team functional, fairly with integrity and legitimacy functional, and the LACC legitimate and functional as well, they can carry on separate investigation on their own in collaboration with any other intergovernmental agency or autonomous agency for findings that will be used in terms of whatever investigation that they come up findings that can be used to prosecute individuals who've committed crime, whether or not the legislature still going through other reports. So we need to get that clear. That's why we need to strengthen those integrated institutions so that they don't have to wait on political players, because political players, Mr. CA, and other report can go in the house there. And if I'm on the committee for finance and whatever the case, I see they're going to be prosecuting my man Anthony C, and the man that my body, my man gave me a call. He said, my man, my knee on that laser. He said, forget, I will step on that thing. The next day you wake up, you hear they say, oh, the committee found nothing wrong with what Anthony C did. All the information provided against him is false and misleading. That case will die. That's why it should not be political. So we have the political format, but we should also have that independent body operating concomitantly.
Thank you. Very good clarity by the panel of folks in cyberspace. This is Focus on Liberia. This is our program Between the Headlines. Our topic for today, the CDC-Unity party stand-off. These two political parties have been trading government, and now it seems to be at each other. CDC is saying, hey, you are witch hunting us, but that is not all. The second thing menu here is the CDC protest and the government of Liberia response. Let me give you a little summary of this particular stand-up that we're talking about right now. So, tension in Monrovia, large police presence due to anticipated protest. So there was an anticipated protest. CDC, talk about a protest, and some individuals, especially from the EPS, also tried to protest. Some of them were let go, and they have not gotten their benefits. They are not being happy. They've been talking to government, and government is yet to come through. So they allege a protest that CDC welcomed their right to protest. And so as a result of that, we saw police deployment. All right, police deployed riot police citywide, including the CDC headquarters. So some of the police officers were seen at the CDC headquarters. We got a picture to that effect. Let me show you here quickly. As you can see here, here's the headline: Police besiege CDC headquarters. And you see the riot police there. They were at the CDC headquarters. Whatever the reason was, now there was confrontation between the police and some members of CDC, all right? And we also know that past violence record, right? Some of these members of CDC are thinking about what happened when Unity Party was in power, when they sent people to the CDC headquarters. Live bullets were fired, and as a Caribbean, I think either one person was killed or 2%, and several others got wounded. So when CDC saw Unity Party in power, and now police being sent there again, they were terrified, and they said that, hey, this is an act of intimidation, that CDC is trying to intimidate them. They have the right to assemble as a political party. And but the police inspector general said that they were there to protect the peace. They were there to protect citizens and even those who were gathering to protest. CDC does not see it that way, and CDC is saying that, oh, this is Unity Party at it again. What they did to us before, that is what they are trying to do to us. Whereas Unity Party is saying, well, when we were in government, CDC used to protest all what they play, they step in the peace, they step in our government. This is what they try to do, and we're not going to allow that to happen. Gentlemen, let me come back to you with my questions now. Isaac, what is CDC fear here? Because the government has the right to send police wherever they fear, maybe protests or violence anywhere. Violence is coming in our community.
Right. Thank you. So you have placed it right there, but let me go a little step forward in the issue. Gregor Cuomo, who I speak to regularly, is someone who was in the police as a high-ranking officer in 2011, when the police went to the CDC party headquarters from the same venue where they passed, and killed one person, wounding several. One or two now was actually the person who made the shot that killed the person that got dead. Today's one or two was the same person. It took only that time to separate them. Today, in like yesterday or when the issue came about now, we woke up early in the morning and we saw police all around the very same place. Think about it. And like this, the CDC is a party that is not afraid of anyone. Nobody, not Mr. Barker. Mr. Barker does not have the muscle to overpower the CDC. If the CDC wants to have a protest, the CDC will absolutely announce the protest. CDC did not announce a protest. And let's correct the record. There was no protest on Monday. No, there was a reaction towards the police, just like your headline said, circulating the CDC's party's headquarters. That's how they reacted to what the police actually initiated. There was not a protest. The only thing we know, the government came to power and decided to dismiss over 200 EPS officers, who most of them are armed, very trained military persons, without even following due process, giving them their benefits, letting them go in peace. And these people have been disgruntled, saying they will march on their boss's office and demand him to give their benefit. As a political party, of course we have to side with Liberians who are feeling disenchanted against the government's will. So we decided to listen to them. That was so far the only connection between they and the party. That money, they weren't at the party headquarters. They weren't there. It was Gregor Cuomo who I said on an earlier day that he is sensing there will be some nationwide protests. So the only place that protests can happen in Liberia is the CDC party headquarters. Not the UP party headquarters, not ANC party headquarters, no other party headquarters. So they had to go there it was 3 o'clock. I was right here in the morning, 3 o'clock our time, when they sent the first picture with the police put all around. At that time, people had not even, it was around 6, 7, 8 in Liberia in the morning. So then we placed a call, say, you know what, you call the policemen and ask them what they're doing there. They didn't want to move. Now the issue actually started, the confrontation started when they forced their way into Bernard Boss, Archibald Bernard's home. And that home connects to the CDC from the back. That's how the guys went there and tried to, tell them, you know what, you go out while you're coming here, all that kind of a thing. So just to end up, there was no reason for police to be deployed around CDC party headquarters. CDC did not announce protest. CDC was not protesting. And knowing what you did years back with the very same people, the CDC will not take it lightly. And imagine if something had resulted to someone being killed. I can guarantee you we wouldn't be having the Liberia we're having today. So that was reckless in my mind. It was very irresponsible. There is no reason justifiable why that should have happened at all. No reason whatsoever. If CDC wants to protest, the CDC will announce protest. The CDC is not afraid of Bishop Bakao, Gregory Como. None of us. No, we've been there before. We were there. We know what happens. We know the terrain. Why would we be afraid of Gregory Como to be had it? No, we announced protest. And Gregory Como can do nothing. But I thought that was very irresponsible.
Jimmy, the CDC has a history of protestation. And the United Party now has a history too of, sending police and even harming some members of the community. Was this necessary to have sent police, riot police for that matter, at the headquarters of the CDC, just on rumors that there is a planned protest? And the protest that we heard about was not planned by CDC, being talked about or even threatened, I should use the right word, threatened by EPA officers who were dismissed by the current administration. And they even code-name it. They say, kill one, kill all. That's what they said. That's the code name of the protest. How come, because CDC welcomed their right to protest, we have to see police officers at CDC headquarters? Did the police, were they acting on intelligence? What do you think led to this action of the police?
Wow. Yes. They got something to go, what is your end game? I think the authorities have to always look at that. This kind of heavy response to just a gathering, or what if they decide to protest? What will you bring out next time? You already brought out the water gun tanks. You already brought out the men in riot gear. What's going to happen tomorrow when they really want to protest? You have to measure your response in these situations, and this is where we will see if Bwaka really has the prowess to manage the country. You see, Ellen Johnson had several of these CDC protests. She used to get down from the car and go and talk to the students and calm them down, because this is how you engage. If you know how to engage your people, you will do well. But if you don't, it can easily escalate. We saw what happened in 1979 with we call it the rice riots, but they were really freedom of speech that was being curtailed. So if your response in this matter is this heavy, I have to ask you, so what is your end game? Because this, this is not going to go away. So unless you're telling you're going to heavy hand the CDC, is that what your plan? I think that they should come up with a better strategy. Where level heads talk. I think they need to call President Weah in and the chief members of the CDC and have a sober conversation about the future of the country, and not allow politics to get in the way. Okay, but as when it comes to the prosecution for crimes and whatnot, I don't see why we should that should not go away, but it should be fair and balanced and transparent. I think as long as you're transparent, at least if you are trying some of your own people as well as others, there will be no contention. But if you make it look biased, that's when you will see all this resistance. And then you have already shown, you're already pulled out your aces already, and the game hasn't even begun yet. So I think they need to take another approach. Call in the CDC leadership, and let's talk about the future of the country.
Mike, what could be another repeat of what happened at the CDC headquarters? Actually, one can argue could have been avoided, right? How could that be avoided, given the history? And Gregory Coma is very familiar with the situation that happened in the CDC before, maybe a phone call or something. And these are people that the government let go, and they have not paid their benefits. And these are the people saying you have to give our benefits. And then police. Who is triggering this? Who can we hold responsible for what could be a potential violence that will lead to death?
Well, the peace of the country lies in the hand of President Boyka and his lieutenants, and that's a straightforward answer. Everybody can have a sentimental, emotional, way of defining that, but that who is responsible for the peace of Liberia? So let's take for a second. Let's step back for a second. So the police, according to the IG, the police received intelligence that there was going to be a protest, and they knew exactly where the protest was going to be. They knew on what day the protest was going to be, and so what they chose to do was to send overwhelming force. How about, instead of doing that, since you have all this intelligence, how about connecting with some civil service groups and starting a dialogue with the CDC or with the EPS people, saying, look, we are hearing this. It is not okay for us to do this right now. What is your issue? Can you come to the table? Can we sit down and talk about this before this day comes? They didn't do any of those things. Their choice, what they chose to do was to wait. On that morning, we will send overwhelming force. They believed that was the appropriate approach. Thank God, things didn't escalate more than. How many people will get in Liberia? Let's be honest here. What is overwhelming force? You're talking about CDC. What is overwhelming force that you will overwhelm CDC? It's not possible. So I think how you prevent those things, you are proactive. But your proaction should not be organizing riot police to show overwhelming force. Your proaction should be engaging the people that have issue. If the EPS people have issue, they were let go, they were not paid, and nobody has answered their call. That is a legitimate concern. Those people have families to feed. And everybody know Liberia, right? You get your own family, which is your wife, your children, maybe your wife man, and a couple of other people there. But then when you get a job, and you have had job for 6 years, that family has expanded beyond that. All your cousin children, your inter children, all of them depending on you. School coming open. It's August. School opens next month. All that weight is placed on you. And not only have you been let go, but what you are justly owed. People are telling you, girlfriend in your face, we don't want to hear you. You put people in desperate situations. A desperate situation, unfortunately, leads people to take desperate measures. We're all glad here that it didn't escalate. But even now, days after, they have not been engaged. I heard the Minister of Justice today, trying to say something about it, but it hasn't been. And that's what needs to happen. That's the approach that Gregory Coleman and the Minister of Justice, if they really want to keep the peace, they want to be proactive, they want to prevent another November 7 from happening, that is how you do it. You engage. And if you think that the people will not trust you, you bring other people in. You bring other people, civil society groups, press union groups, you bring other people in, you make it transparent, and you put it out there, and you demand their trust. So everybody here looking at us now, what I will say to you, let's talk. And people will talk. In the end, people just want their money to feed their families.
And Dr. Clarence, clearly this is a problem that is the government own creation. You felt the need to let people go who have already worked, and they have benefits that you needed to pay. Why couldn't you find the benefits before letting them go? And it's been this long now, 6 months counting, and they have not gotten their legitimate benefits. Now they are saying, hey, we have right to our benefits. You promised us, not one promise, 2-3 times now. We haven't gotten our money. We'll protest. And now police, is the government solving the problem here?
Mr. C, thank you for the question. This is when I repeat myself every time I'm on the show. It boils down to leadership. It boils down to leadership. Remember now, the current President Joseph Boakai, is 80 years old. I was just at 79, just to me, constant on the record. 79 years old, maybe he turned 80 years, but 80 years old, I will hope. He lived long enough to have seen the LU riot and the massacre that took place on LU campus in the late 70s, early 80s. He lived long enough to have seen the situation involving 12 years, 14 years of civil conflict. He lived long enough to have seen the UP and the CDC standoff that led to the death of a citizen as a result of a post-conflict or post-election conflict. He lived long enough to have seen all the riots that took place under Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration when he was vice president sitting in the Capitol building right across from LU when we were making all the noise at the time as student movement. He lived long enough to have seen the Weah administration where he himself took part in demonstrations. And one of the most popular protests that called for a certain president to step down from office outside of the legitimate electoral process. The October 7, I think I had to call it November 707.
June 7.
June 7 protest it was. And other protests that follow. They bring back our money protests. And those were classic protests that even gave the organizers awards. I think Henry Costa won what they call Disruptor Award and was published in a magazine in West Africa, for that protest. West African leaders had to leave their business schedule to come to Liberia to sit down and run a table with Joseph Boakai stooges during a political campaign and protest to sit with a certain government to discuss the way forward. That's how severe those protests was. So he lived to see these things. I was fortunate to live in the war and live to see all the protests myself. I was living right in Liberia. I went through all of those things I'm talking about. It surprises me to see that today we are still have now learned from the past, Mr. C. When I woke up,
don't forget about the Army woman, the most recent one.
Exactly. When I woke up and I saw on Spoon Television the atmosphere in Cinco area with the police detachment at that gas station that is about the distance between that gas station and the CDC compound is about 10 feet or maybe 20 feet. Just the distance. There's a road between that to go to the beach that we used to use to go to the beach. I think about 10 or 20 feet between the two distance. You have riot police. So the question that came to my mind, why are we allowing our country to appear like a war zone? Like my honorable Mr. Eastman said, when we are not even fighting war, you brought all your A game. So in other words, if there had rather been a real active protest that went south, what will you bring out? You will bring out what? Live bullets? Live bullets? Look, there's a thin line between tampering with 10 new positions. There's a thin line between bringing mass show of force against a political opponent in the country and what they call a police state. If we are not careful, the very guys who are in the national police who sat in the early administration that used live bullets on peaceful citizens trying to demonstrate their political rights and freedoms will see the repeat of history in Liberia. And I don't want to live to see that day. I want to live to see a responsible government under sound leadership of President Boakai, learning from history to ensure that the show of force will not be the first result to solving our political problems, but there will be dialogue. And if dialogue fails, then there should be what we call measured use of force. So what I wanted to see on that day, if we have heard that there will be demonstration going on or protests going on, let the national police come and talk with the protesters and provide security for them. And I strongly want to say before I close on my closing statement, I want to say this on this issue. Listen, Mr. C. I hear the national police saying that they want to declare protest zone. No Liberian should be restricted as to where they can protest and where they cannot protest. Protests can be spontaneous. And the people should not have no restriction on where they can gather to express their dissatisfaction against the rule over their lives. What should happen is that they should be safer and they should have police protection
And then they should be given the right to exercise their right, which is given by the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. And if they should get violent, then the government can step in to ensure the safety of life and property. Until then, we should be very civil in how we deal with citizens when it comes to expressing their freedoms.
Tom, you got a final word on this whole issue.
I think a lot has been said. Like for me, whenever I appear on these programs, I'm just looking at the country, right? Extremely poor, a lot of poverty in the country. How do we get out of this poverty is normally my concern. Because much of the problems that we face in Liberia is because of high levels of poverty. Why are we having this issue of the demonstration is coming from EPS? Why? Because they were put out of job. The other question is, how were they employed? Because these are security sector institutions, they are not covered by the CSA regulations. It's not like civil servant, you say you can't put them down. If the EPS has put down, let's say 100 or 200 people, and they are still able to deliver their services, they're still able to protect. This is not like the army that is defending the square kilometer of Liberia. The only work that the EPS does is to protect our public officials, right? The president, the vice president, speaker, and other things. So if the EPS is able to put down 100% or 150% and still be able to perform at an optimal level, as an economist, I have a concern there. Were they beyond their optimal level? Why is this done and they're still able to deliver their services? And sometimes when we discuss problems, we don't go back to the root cause. If it was above their optimal level, why did you employ that kind of people in the EPS simply because you want to provide jobs if they didn't have service to deliver? And this is the reason why our public sector is not efficient, it's not effective, because it's overly staffed. You have 10, 15 persons sitting and doing one piece of job. I had gone to a meeting to one government building, and there was someone sitting before the bathroom to tell you that somebody is in the bathroom and that nobody is there. You can go in when you can easily just go and rap at the bathroom. So over the years, we've just been overstaffing this bureaucracy. So there's an argument to make that people were employed, they don't have jobs today, you need to give them their benefits, but should they have been there in the first place? So now it becomes a problem. So we are not really focusing on the main issues to grow the country. Everybody comes, bring a bunch of people into the public sector that over time, they don't have the resources to even do the job that they need to do. And then we just keep following on. But what I would say to this,
that is a fair point, and I agree with that. The issue at hand now is that, how do we hire, whether that was above the ultimate level? It's obvious that was the case, according to Sam Gay, who is the director of the EPS. That's why he said. And now the government promised that we're going to let you go and we're going to pay your benefits. What is taking
that's the point. That's where I'm coming to. And Jimmy made a very important point. There's a lot of research that has been done on how poor countries can grow. The new evidence that is coming today is saying that they grow based on consensus that is made among the power holders, those who hold power. Whether they are in the country, they are out of the country, they are in government, they are out of government. It is that consensus among them that can make the country to grow. So once there is no conversation happening among those stakeholders and everyone is hating against each other, we're not going to grow. Because if there's demonstration today, there's demonstration tomorrow, because it happened under where we also do it. It happened under Salif, we also do it. We don't build a consensus to be able to define a way to get out of this poverty. It's going to be a problem for us. So what I will say is that the stakeholders that are on ground have a conversation of these different people. You lay them out. If you need to give them some money, like you said, regardless of the way they were employed or not, it is already a problem on the government. Find a way to be able to solve this problem. Because if you also look at what is happening here, it's not de-linked from what we were discussing initially. Former officials get indicted. The president delivers a State of the Nation address. You have a couple of demonstrations now coming up. You have t-shirts being printed with resistance. And it's becoming a whole kind of a cycle that we are going to be going through. So to avoid this, I will say let these stakeholders have a conversation. Let them sit down on the table and solve these problems so that they can give chance to the other people who are in poverty to be delivered from poverty.
Well, on that note, we will come to our final issue here, which is this reported bill of impeachment against President Bouaka that CDC as a political institution is contemplating at the lower house and maybe subsequently to land at the upper house for the removal of President Joseph Yaman Bouaka. There has been reported multiple times now that the CDC is considering that. And so, gentlemen, let's discuss that. I will give each of you 2 minutes, and then we'll bring in our callers for them to participate. And I have 2 questions that you will answer as you use your 2 minutes. My first question would be, what are the specific charges in this, purported bill of impeachment against President Bouaka, and what evidence support those charges? That's one question. Question number 2, what impact do you foresee this impeachment having on the political stability of our country? So the CDC say, hey, there are too many violations. So I just want to see what are the violations, what the evidence of the violation, and if there is to actually happen, as they are saying that they are serious about it, will it have any impact on our political stability? Who is the politician in the room here? Should start. Mr. Doe, is this something that your party is actually considering? I know you said that to me privately. You told me I'm okay to say that.
Right. So again, I made the clarification to you. I wanted to be sure I do the same. It is not specifically the CDC, because I can even confirm here that 2 rescue senators are also on board. I can say that for a fact. So it is not the CDC thing. It is the thinking of group of lawmakers having some deals with who will replace if that were to go through.
So what are the specific charges, Mr. Doe, and what would be the implication?
You don't need to go, on the moon to know. Number one, we had too many in abuse of power. Going after turning positions people, just be abuse of power. We have bribery, wherein Yeke Koluba brought evidence that the executive mansion gave lawmakers 5,000 coupons for a certain deal. That's bribery. We also have evidence as a tape recording from a representative from Grand Crew County who said he sat in a meeting with the president when 25,000 United States dollars was offered. That's bribery. Like I talked about abuse of power, coercion. We are having the issue where the executive mansion pressured CBL to give out free money to SIB, a struggling bank that mismanaged things, simply because we know by evidence that SIB supported the campaign of Unity Party. These are all big, broad charges. Abuse of our procurement laws. 285 yellow machine just came from nowhere, nowhere, just dropped in Liberia. $22 million of road money, mud road money, where there was no budget, there was no PPCC procurement or followed a lot of issues. He is the head of the government. He takes blame of everything. And there are many, many reasons why. You can see them. You can see the way the country is going. And the thing is, it's not just about him, it's beyond him. What happens next should be those things that will be, you got to tighten the screw to ensure you're doing the right thing and move forward. But again, this is not a CDC thing I want to clarify, because I can confirm of 2 rescue senators who are also not too cool. So, we there, everything going. It's better to put a paper on the side and see what we can do here. But, political discussion will always have some agreements. Okay, my man, cool, that you will be the next person. When you get there, you will do this, you will do this, you will not do that. You agree? Oh, no, I agree. They will have to go all around cycle before they move on. But there's a serious issue, I can tell you. It is seriously being contemplated. And from the House of Representatives, I know if the bill comes up today, they will have a vote, because they do have the votes for that. In the Senate, they already have each for, I think, 1 or 2 votes.
Jimmy, you are in the nation's capital. We're talking impeachment here. Mr. Doe is saying he believes that those who are contemplating the idea will get the vote they will need to carry that. And I don't want you to forget my first question. has President Waka done so much wrong against our laws to see an impeachment proceeding against him? What has he done? What's the evidence that he's done, so much wrong to deserve this?
Well, we have to examine the ground for impeachment. Usually for a president, you have high crimes and misdemeanors, significant misdemeanors that warrant impeachment. But let me be frank and honest. I don't think that is going anywhere. We are the way the construct of our politics and the way the bodies interact, the justice, the judicial, the executive, and the legislative. There's no way you're going to impeach Walker at this point. He hasn't. There's nobody. They're going to talk about it, but it's not going to go anywhere. It's not designed. Our whole system is not designed to bring a president of that, anybody of that stature down. It just won't work. There will be talks about it. There may be whatnot, but
Jimmy, are you also suggesting that has not happened in Liberia before, or is it that you don't think it can happen now?
Well, we have seen overthrow. E.J. Roy was overthrown. Really, when you look at the facts, it wasn't a proper impeachment, even though it did start like that. And we haven't seen, not to my knowledge, any impeachment. We have this kind of patrimony or patricide, whatever kind of government. They will not look at a president and do it. They will never do it. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to happen. It's just going to be talk. So I see this dead in the water.
And Micah, do you agree with Jimmy here that the executive is too powerful? The executive almost like controls the other two branches of government. In no way, shape, and form it's ever going to happen?
No, I do not. I do not. That's how it might seem.
Mm-hmm.
Going into it, that's how it might even look. But let's look at the basis. Okay. The first thing is that there's impeachment and there's removal, right? So impeachment happens in the House of Representatives. They do their discussions there. They talk about the case. They talk about what they're bringing against the president. They take a vote. If the vote goes majority one way, 2/3 majority, that is, the president is impeached at that point. Then it moves to the Senate. That's for removal proceedings. The same thing happens, but that is more like a trial, where it is the judge is the chief justice of the country.
Mm-hmm.
The senators are the jury, all 30 of them. Right now, the Senate is split in half, 15-15. That's how it is right now. 2/3 of that is 20. Now only 5 votes. When you really start discussing politics and you start offering these greedy people that will get in the Senate things, I mean, let me move the paper now. Look, it is so explosive that even Jeremiah Cohn could be in the background moving things to become president. You have to understand, if Waka is removed, is impeached and removed, Jeremiah Cohn becomes president. That's how our constitution works. Even Jeremiah Cohn can be in the background, working in favor. Not necessarily against Waka, but in favor of himself. It will, and you have to understand, Jeremiah Cohn doesn't stand by himself. He has his own group that will benefit. Jeremiah Cohn has his own group right now that feel like everything that comes to them, it has to be negotiated. They have to try to get by Sylvester Grisby. Sylvester Grisby is the person that holds the key right now. He's the gatekeeper. and they have to go through him to get to boycott, to get things done. And the way politics work, you can never say never. When the moment is there and you are being presented with certain things, look, if let move the papier, let put Kun there. As a matter of fact, you know what? If you vote in favor, Jeremiah Kun will recommend you for VP. You don't tell me senator will not go. Senator will sit down and say, these people, in all honesty, there will be a core of them that won't budge. But many of them, there are no honors. When I was much younger, a teenager, I read this novel called There Is No Honor Amongst Thieves. None. They might seem to be together, but when all boils down to it, there is no honor. And there's no honor in that house. So I would never put it past anybody that it cannot happen. It is possible. It is highly possible that if they go through this process, it could happen.
Thank you. Well, according to our history, President Charles Doma Borges King of Liberia faced impeachment following the controversial 1927 general and presidential election, which was marked by allegation of fraud, saw King re-elected for a third term with a suspiciously high number of votes. The situation led to investigation by the League of Nations. In the aftermath, it was established that both President King and Vice President Allen Yancey were profiting from forced labor, which was equivalent to slavery. After the Liberian House of Representatives,
he was forced to resign.
Yeah,
but he was supposed to resign. He wasn't impeached.
Yeah, hold on, Jimmy. I'm reading something. Both King and Yancey resigned. And again, I'm not saying that they were impeached, but the threat of impeachment, because of the crime that they were accused of at the time, maybe they saw that was going to happen. They walk away. And another history is that Associate Justice Cabinet Janan was impeached during the CDC rule. So impeachment had happened before in our nation history. But again, I asked the question because I know the power of the president in Liberia. Even judges who cannot be fired by the president, almost like, as a servant to the president. So I don't see how this is possible. And Tom, you were knocking. You said, no, I don't think this is doable. What made you think so? This is politics. Anything can happen. We have a Jeremiah Kun as vice president today.
I mean, it's not only politics. Mm-hmm. In real life, anything can happen. In football game, anything can happen.
Exactly.
But based on the post-war governance process that we have seen, mm-hmm. I don't think this is something that will go through. I think that this is not something that has just come over the past week. I think Representative Safoku has been talking about this. Oh, we impeach the president, we impeach the president. But for the fact that it is now moving forward to even the point that we will put a bill through, I think it's still linked to this fight against corruption. Because once you genuinely start a process of fighting corruption in Liberia, there will be a lot of things that will happen to distract your attention. And the former president said it, that we will fight through the judicial process and we also fight through the political process. So it's going to be a multi-dimensional fight. There will be people on the street demonstrating, even if you pay and let me just say this, once they pay off the EPS officers, any one person that has been, laid out to water and sewer in other places, they will all demonstrate. They will all demonstrate for money. So it's going to be one demonstration after the other. It's going to be a bill in the legislature, which themselves, to an extent, might not think that it is going to go through, but they will be making noise about it. And like Azedo was saying, they already got 2 senators. So the way he described it is that it can be put tomorrow and day after tomorrow, the process is done. So I think we should just wait and see how it goes through. But I don't think this is something that will go through.
Yep. That'll be awesome.
I think it's highly likely that the president will be impeached. And if that were to happen, I will be one of those who will be happy about it. and for a couple of reasons. I think it's highly likely for two reasons. One, political expediency and constitutional reliance. For political expediency, President Boyka did not become president because he had the requisite leadership capacity to lead Liberia. And we know that for a fact because of the length of time he has been in government, around government, and what he has to show for it, and also how he led the opposition CPP when he participated in a black and what the results were based on his lack of leadership to keep that body together, despite their internal wrangling. And the political experience will come about for me, considering the fact that people rally around President Boyka because of his popularity, the political capital he brought, the popularity. And they felt that he was popular enough to win an election or to contend with President Weah, so they supported him. And with that intention, I know that Kun is on record, video record, who believe that President Boyka presidency in 2023 is not a quality leadership because he would not have had the capacity to lead. We also have Prince Johnson on record, the kingmaker, like we Brentberg can say the kingmaker who made President Boyka president today by the popular vote of the Nimbayans, on record by saying that he only voted and made it to vote for Boyka because he will be a conduit through which a Nimbayan can become president of the Republic of Liberia, which is Jeremiah Kun of his political party. And then we understand that that political expedience can also be further buttressed by the poor performance of Boyka since the past 6 months. I've heard that Ross Dillon say that he's very disappointed with the president's decision. We have seen the many failed attempts of the president to get things started that never went through. Issues that even went through, maybe the ones that had to do with the War Crimes Code and the fight against corruption. These are just by stroke of the pen political decision. These are not a tangible delivery when it comes to leadership productivity. So we've seen a lot of frustration around his leadership the past 6 months and the failed stats. And so I feel that there's enough political expediency for people to get rid of President Boyka to make room for a much more viable leadership at the helm of the presidency. And I think Prince Johnson is going to support this in the back. I think Jeremiah Kun is going to support this in the back. I think Speaker Kofa is going to support this, who has been a constant, Boyka has been a constant threat to him. He's going to support this. I think 10 new officials in government who feel threatened by President Boyka, disregard for the rule of law, will support this. And I think there will be many players who will hide their hands and throw stones. Now, let's go to the constitutional reliance. What brought President Boyka to the presidency is the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia that he swore to protect at the inauguration on January 15. President Boyka did not even spend 100 days in office and had already started violating the Constitution by going after 10 new officials that he himself has a signature on those 10 new positions. And I'm not just citing the 10 new positions, Mr. C, just for citing. The Supreme Court ruled against Boyka's violation of the 10 new law. President Boyka himself acknowledged that he respects the court's opinion and that the court has said that he should recall those that he had appointed to 10 new positions without following due process. After he signed the paper, the ink had not even dry. He had gone after the very people that the court had told him to not go against and appointed the very people the court told him to recall. That was a constitutional breach that Boyka had done, with the courts ruling already clear on those issues. And then it comes down to another point that I want to raise, which is serious: the breach of our financial laws. President Boyka had gone out there, he said in his own name, and did gentleman agreement outside of law. We understand the president has the right to negotiate deals for Liberia that will benefit the country, but not outside of the laws of the country. So when the president goes out there and comes and tells us in a handwritten, in a signed document to the House of Legislature, and say, listen, gentlemen, I went out there and my long-term friend and I connived to bring in equipment in the country by violating our tax laws at the Freeport Monrovia. And not only that, but violating the rights of our security apparatus by carrying somebody's private property into our barracks for our legitimate AFL security forces to become a custodian of those equipment. It's a violation of our laws. And to add insult to injury, we are now hearing that that deal is bogus. Our national orator has even said the deal is bogus. We all have said the deal is bogus. And now Boyka is trying to step back after he has gone and made. And I will say this, there will be the second time I mentioned Mr. C. President Boyka has people outside there in the global world with letters, with a signature calling them pro bono special representative of the president. There is no law governing how the pro bonos report to the Republic of Liberia. There's no policy regulation in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs how those guys are regulated. Those guys are operating under the signature of the president, lobbying in the name of the country. Lobbying in the name of the country. Who are they reporting to? Who are they taking money from? Who are they collecting money from? When they collect those monies, if they tell Boyka on the phone, I got $1 million, who knows about that $1 million? I know two of heads right now I can name, but I will not name for privacy's sake because of the privacy. I don't want to embarrass them, but I can say, go do your investigation. There are people out there in the name of President Boyka doing pro bono service, paying themselves in the name of the country on a blank check written by the President of the Republic of Liberia saying you can lobby in my name.
Are we going to go to the callers?
So I want to rest on that and say, listen, there are multiple constitutional breach with reliance on the president can be impeached, and I'm sure there's political convenience for that to happen and expediency for that to happen. And I wait to see how it play out, and I would love him to turn over to Jeremiah Kuhn with immediate effect.
Okay. You are muted. You are muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Jimmy and Clarence. Thank you, guys. Hey, the number to call is 605-313-6004. Enter the code 791-403 to participate. The number has been posted multiple times, both on Facebook and YouTube, for you to call and participate. We're going to give it like 1-2 minutes. We have a caller, and that caller is the man Flomo Livingstone. Mr. Livingstone, you are live. Go ahead.
Unmuted.
Mr. Livingstone, you are live. Go ahead.
Today.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, great show. Can you hear me?
Yes. You are loud and clear. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I mean, great show. Thanks to the panelists. Yeah, I mean, I think the panelists, most of them made me laugh today about impeaching the president. I challenge them also when they're going to get in the Senate. First of all, the president did not break any law that will cause them to impeach, and they cannot do it. I challenge any of them on the show today to they will get better. So CDC don't have a moral to criticize the president of maybe turning position. CDC, Joel was there. I could go right there. 2020, when you guys removed the STA boss that was there, that was not breaking the law. They removed the sentence of Quico. That's not breaking the law. Even though you went to the airport and won, the coach said you should pay and you refused to pay it. That's not breaking the law. So many things CDC did. So I think CDC don't have more to speak to criticize the current government. No, if there people like Dr. Gomes speaking, I will listen to him. Because if there is someone with moral, who can speak and can criticize the government, I will listen. But not CDC. No, we're talking about the police. The police did their job. That's why the police was there to protect black property. They don't have to wait until the protesters are blocking roads and throwing rocks on people's cars. And that type of behavior of protesting is wrong. People should not be the same way you have to protest. Remember, all people have the right to for free movement. You go blocking roads, protest, driving fast, it's infringing on other citizen rights. and people need to be arrested for doing something like that. And I commend the police, the IG for doing that, for deploying people there to protect life and property for free movement of all LeBron citizens. He had rights, but remember, all LeBron had rights to move freely. You're not going to block people from not moving. And most of the private thing is doing is because the president is we have the country inflated too much in this country. That's why you see the country is not moving forward. Now you have the president who coming to persecute people. You get people that come into a runaway, like a runaway guy, get down to state justice. When the CDC was persecuting Bernie Sanders, Robert Mususka, the late Charles Lee, that kind of law was good. They were doing the right thing, right? But now the guy is going against them and they want to run around and stuff. Next time everyone come back and face the law, so you can exonerate yourself and move on freely. But if you're found guilty, then you spend the maximum time in some beach and feel how it feels like to be in jail. So CDC don't have the moral ground to criticize the common ground. And President Bonner will serve in 6 years and he will not be impeached. I challenge any of the people on that panel today. All of the panelists that are on our show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He has a point there. When CDC was in power, they had investigation going on. They had Bernie Samuka, Mr. Wiggs, Mr. Saliv, and then other people. I think the United Party were saying, which one? And now they're coming after the other one of people. They say, which one? These two political parties really need to give us a break. That's the only color we have. Gentlemen, time is fast spent. And I can't thank you enough for your deliberation tonight. Let us bring it to a close. Jimmy, your closing, sir.
Yeah. We've seen a lot of politics being played, but I think I don't like the fact that they're playing with the Liberian people's lives. They pretend like they're doing something, and then in the background they're doing something completely different. I think the Liberian people deserve better. I think we deserve somebody honest with integrity. I think we would deserve somebody who will take our resources and benefit our children, the schools, the hospitals, grow our agriculture, increase the productive capacity of the nation. We need somebody like that. And this administration, if they do plan to go after corruption, if they do plan to avenge the Liberian people money that been wrongly taken, then they should do it constructively. They should do it through institutions so that it will continue to exist and persist down the road. It shouldn't be ad hoc. It has to be through institutionalized, transparent, legitimate means so that everybody will be satisfied with it. That is the only way to go about it. Any other thing short of that will look like a witch hunt.
Thank you. We have a caller that just called. Your name and where you joining us from, and please go ahead. You have a minute.
Thank you for the show. I'm calling from Texas. My name is Elena Wilson. And I'm calling concerning the show, and they were talking about Baka to impeach Baka. They need to impeach that man. That man is not good for our country. Because Baka, when they not pay that man, they not overthrow that man, then you will bring war in our country. Look at when you tell people to the CDC headquarters to okay our people. They give you power. You're not ruling the country. You want to be detected. You want to be behind everybody, running behind people, firing people in the police, everywhere. Firing people. What kind of president is that? You say you can't rescue people, but you can't depress people's life. What kind of thing is that? People will not have freedom. Even in Liberia, people like them, when you call them, that the CDC people even scared to talk outside. In the community, they can't come outside. Then you say you can't rescue people. You break all the laws in the country. Then when you supported that kind, they say, we want make peace. How will get peace? You want to win the election. You don't want peace. Your kids looking for trouble. We're not scared now. I will not bow down to that. We're ready for that. Anything they check, we'll check it too. Thank you for the show.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Palmer, you're closing.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show tonight. Just a quick rehash, concerning our first topic, fight against corruption. I think if this government honestly embarks on a fight against corruption, wherever it is, wherever it exists, wherever it has been exercised, I think they will get the support of all the Liberian people from all sides. I think if they're able to turn that fight into tangible results, where we see people go to jail, we see people properties are confiscated, are auctioned off, and the monies from those things are returned to the people in kind of healthcare, in kind of education. I think they will have the support of all the Liberian people. However, if they use this mantra of fighting corruption to go after their supposed opponents, to somehow feel that they will, in the near future, cement themselves into their political positions, it will be resisted. And nobody will have sympathy for them. Right now, CDC is winning the information war. CDC is receiving the sympathy of the Liberian people. When I talk about Liberian people, I'm talking about those who are neutral. They are seeing it. They are seeing it that, you know what, we want for you to fight corruption, but the way how you're doing it, you only going after the CDC people, and ain't looking okay. Even though we see LACC boss coming and saying, oh, we're working on other things, until we can see that. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes it. We need to see it. We need to see it actually happen. And we need to see not only you indict people of the present government, but to see them be prosecuted. Then people will start to believe it. Concerning the protests, look, I made a point here, and I just want to clarify for my brother Thomas there. When you have over 2 million voters registered, and the margin at the end is less than 2%, in most elections around the world, it calls for an immediate recount. So many things can happen in that process. 17,000, anything can happen. Somebody can put different number or zero somewhere, and the whole
Mr. Palmer, to Thomas' point, it's based on the law.
Yes,
it's a
you are right.
threshold that the law says there got to be a recount. In our case, it's clear, 50% plus 1. That was his point.
Yes, but the law also says that you can file a grievance. If you believe that somewhere there was a miscount, you can file a grievance.
And that's an entirely different thing. That's an entirely different thing.
I'm just saying there's a process. So I'm not saying that 17,000 mean that we are won. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when the votes are that close, anybody can cheat anywhere and it changed the election. The possibility for cheating becomes more. When you win overwhelmingly, then the possibility for cheating decreases significantly. That's
so
what I'm trying to say.
Could it mean that the opposition cheated the ruling government then?
That's the issue.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean by the opposition? There was a lot of people that did not want CDC to continue. It didn't have to be Joseph Boyka. A lot of people didn't want CDC to continue. And a lot of people have made things. I'm not saying that's what happened. Let's not go down the rabbit hole. Okay. I'm not saying that's what happened. All I'm saying is when elections are close, when they are close, the chances for cheating becomes high. We saw this. I don't know how old Thomas is, but I went through my very first elections was 1985. 1985, and I remember ballot boxes being burned. I remember magistrates being chased. There's a lot of things that happened in Liberia, 1985, for Samuel Doe to eventually become the winner. So all I'm saying is that People have that tendency. A lot of people are begging George Weah, do not give in. Do not concede. Let's check the vote again. Let's check so and so place. If you even remember, after the votes were counted, there were like 2 or 3 different districts that they had to go and do re-voting, recasting of votes because of things that happened there. I'm sure you guys remember. All those things could happen. We are glad it didn't happen. We are glad the president conceded. You know, we are glad things, the transition went the way it happened. All I'm saying is that those things happen. My final point concerning the EPS. Look, you can't come into power and just start sacking people because they are CDC people. Oh, we are a United Party. We are going to sack CDC people. Nelson Mandela, when Nelson Mandela won the presidency of South Africa, one of the things that was done was his government, right? They went in and they removed all of the white Secret Service officers that was in the presidential detail. He inquired personally and said, where are they? He said, oh, no. We don't trust those people being around you. He said, no, we cannot move South Africa forward that way. We will include them. They are professionals. They will guide me just how you guys will guide me. This is how you move the country forward. Okay, and this is not just United Party. CDC did the same thing. When CDC came to power, they were not as drastic. But for example, Mo Ali, they sent Mo Ali to Sastan or whatever.
I think I heard Grand Crew or something.
Yeah, they sent Mo Ali. But they were not as drastic because you know what? Both of Joseph Boakai children worked in the CDC government until they resigned themselves. They themselves got tired working for CDC government and said, we're tired now, we're going to resign. So they were not as drastic. But moving forward, this is not, we can't fix the country like this. When people come to power, then you just ostracize everybody else and put your own people in. Now the other people that are there now, you have created enemies. How are they going to work with you? We need to work with a country where professionals are professionals. As government changes, look, whoever win the presidential thing in the U.S., guess what? I will not lose my job. You, Anthony, will not lose your job. There's no threat for any one of us, even if we work for government, because the system has to work. But that's why I leave it. It was a great show. Great thoughts, everybody. Great contributions. And I look forward to another week like this.
And to your point there, right? Before I get to Clarence and the others, there was this rumor that CDC hired a lot of civilians everywhere. But when I look at the government strength, it's about 67,000. 67,000. That is the strength. So I'm like, the place, based on record right now, they hire a lot of people. The EPS, they hire pretty close to like 300. And that's why the current EPS said, no, we're going to let everybody go. I think 250 gone already. All right. So I didn't really see that much evidence. The way it was being communicated that it was too many people. If you look at the strength of the government before CDC and the strength when CDC left, you don't see that much. You don't see like 10,000 people. You don't see that. So I just wanted to make that clear. Mr. Doe, you're closing, sir.
Well, thank you. So when President Weah considered the elections, even before the final results were announced, that in itself provided Liberia the best opportunity to move forward in a way that brings peace and make the country united. And don't forget, in all across Africa, that was the first time for a sitting president to concede a race before the final election, before the final result. Yeah. So before the final result was announced. In addition to, it was the smallest of margin ever won by the opposition candidate over the ruling candidate, and the ruling candidate accepted. When President Weah won in 2017, he won by nearly 30% margin. That was it. This time, it was around 1 point something percentage. You think about it, for the entire nation. He picked up the phone, he called President Buckeye, congratulated him, had a press conference, and I can confirm there was back and forth within CDC. Large group of the people believe, no, that shouldn't have been. Wait, listen. We have to preserve our democracy. Our country's peace is important. Anyone who have jumped on that and ensure that listen, President Buckeye had the best opportunity to lead a very united country. From that single act from President Weir. But what happened? When President Buckeye took over, the very first thing he decided to do, go after turning positions people. The second thing, withdrawing passports from those having a diplomatic passport, which of course is not the law. They know it's not the precedent. You left from there. You started doing all kinds of things. You brought asset recovery, which is a good thing. We all welcome the idea. They got on the street, started seizing yellow taxis. And the only yellow taxis they were seizing sometimes had a link to another person from the CDC. They went to court, they lose that. You have press conference, you start calling George Weah Wish. All of those things took back all of the opportunities President Buckeye had. Today, you and I can see no one is discussing the economics of our country. No one wants to discuss the real issues our people are facing. Nobody wants to discuss what's happening at the various hospitals. JFK, for one of the first time, had to go and post on their page that drugs were not even at the place to cater to patients. Nobody wants to talk about the prices. Send your people in the market today. The exchange rate. The government has so far neglected that responsibility. And in their mind, what they would do is to move on with a political witch hunt to change the minds of Liberians that indeed the former government were only sitting. And the only thing they were doing, just bringing back our money. Just bringing back our money. But what is always funny is that the people are not stupid. Someone will wake up in the morning, go to town, in the evening, pass the PHP, they will see the area. Who built this place? George Weah. When he was there, we were buying pepper, a little big pack for $100. Now they reduce the pack, very small. They say it's the same $100. The cup of rice, we were buying it $50 for the big cup. Now the people can cut the cup on the type of it, make it small, and say it's $60. All of these things are important. And in our mind, we do still believe President Buckeye has a very good opportunity to lead a united country. Whatever you want to do it holistically. Forget about targeting people. Forget about showing that you get strength, trying to get political advantage, maybe looking at 2029. Listen, when you won the election, you had the support of Prince Johnson. You had the support of ACO. You had the support of T1 Gonglo. You had the support of Appleton. The relentless propaganda against CC for 6 years. You only managed to win 70,000. Think about it. No one has had the support of Prince Johnson who won less than 100,000. Only you. It tells you that you can go up and count that the political play in 2029 will be different. Forget about it. Focus on what you're doing now to better the country and better the people. But again, we always hope for the better in our country.
All right, Tom.
Thank you, Anthony. It was great to be here. I mean, this definition of peace is what I don't agree with. The only peace that can prevail in Liberia is don't touch anybody that has done wrong. And this is the reason why this country is very poor. Everything that Aziz said, they pay attention to the economy, they pay attention to everything, but yet poverty increased in the country. From less than 50%, it went to above 60% before they left power. And it was in that time when the budget was increasing from 600 million to 700 million. In 2023 or 2022, we almost hit close to 800 million budget. That defies any economic logic. Budget is going up, resources are available to invest in healthcare and education. It wasn't happening. The only thing that was happening was money flowing around from one place to the other. 50 million, 20 million, 30 million. And these are the investigations that are happening today. I think as a country, we need to get to a point where we can take steps on addressing this issue of corruption. Because if you don't address corruption, you will never address the bread and butter issue in that country. The money will be flying around, the people won't see it, and they will continue to suffer in poverty. This government had made a couple of mistakes. We've come on this platform, we have highlighted them. But this issue of the fight against corruption, I think it should go ahead until they get to a point. If they do it the same way George Weah did it, set up asset recovery committee, arrested people and just did it like a bluff, then we will come back to criticize them. At this point in time, I think the government should forge ahead. We need to build a deterrence in our political system. What Unity Party is doing today, they too will start to think that when somebody else takes over from them tomorrow, they will equally prosecute them. And instead of going with the way Michael was saying that, oh, it will get them to the point where they will not want to lose power, I think our democracy is beyond that. Today, the people can bring down any democratically elected government if you do the wrong thing. So I think what they will do is, if you are going to shake the system, you are going to prosecute people, you equally will have to deliver to the people of Liberia. Because if you keep them suffering the way they suffer for the past 6 years, they will book you out of that place, regardless of who you are. And then on the issue of the margin, I hear people talking about it almost like the current government does not have legitimacy. Oh, why did you win? We won 30%. You won by a margin of only 1%. What I'm saying is that our constitution says 50% plus 1. Even if it was 2 above George Weah, he should have called in a democratic country to concede. And he's not the only person that has conceded. So concession does not really mean that since he conceded, don't investigate him again, don't do anything, let's just move forward. Once we continue to move forward like this, we are not making progress. So I think the government should continue with doing what they are doing. On the standoff between the two political parties, we hope other political parties might maybe break this. If they don't break it, I just hope it doesn't get polarized to the extent where it becomes negative on the country. But it should be a competition that can benefit Liberia. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Pearson, you got a final word tonight?
Yeah, Mr. Sear, thanks for having me tonight. I just want to say a big thank you to our followers. They were very active tonight, and we saw an increase in the number of those guys following us, and that was great for the show. And I want to say that, listen, when it comes to the EPS guys, I want to be very clear that any responsible government and governance system would not want to have a lot of trained security individuals out there and disgruntled. I think if the EPS director thought we had too many of those guys in the EPS, there could have been other ways to accommodate them within the security apparatus in other areas that it would be useful to the government. Right? And to tell me that we have we've reached the capacity for security in our country will be a lie, because there are places in our country today we don't even have any personal security there. Our borders are porous. We had to got men to man those areas in our different areas, and we got different arms of security that may need manpower to have the security forces beef up. So I think again we should get out of the EPS. I mean, we should get out of that campaign mode and govern well. When it comes to that CDC situation happening at the party headquarters, I don't think we should be showing a strong force of police trying to suppress people from expressing their democratic rights to disagree with government. I think we should support them instead by providing security for them to ensure that they function within the rules of the rules and the regulations governing protests and safety for our people and property. And last but not the least, I think on the issue of the impeachment, I think there's enough grounds for political expediency and constitutional reliance. And let me make it clear to people out there who's saying, yeah, Barr cannot be impeached. Impeachment is a complete political spin when it comes to politics. If there's enough political experience for Barr to be impeached, he will be impeached. Especially that his performance over the last 6 months has been dismal, and he's causing a lot of embarrassment for our country by a failed start. And there are a lot of people who aligned with him from the beginning are not too satisfied with his performance. So I can see Jeremiah Kuhn, Prince Johnson, and a lot of other politicians supporting that drive. And we're going to be watching to see how it goes, how it plays out. Thank you for having me. When it comes to corruption law, we want corruption to be kicked and nipped out of the country, but it has to be done independently and with legitimacy and integrity. Thank you.
On that note, we will come to the end of this broadcast. I want to say a very big thanks to the panelists and also to our viewers who stuck with us throughout the show. Thank you for sharing as well. Tomorrow we'll be back here same time, and I'll be hosting again. We'll put another show together to talk about nation Liberia. Liberia must remain the focus always and always. The song that closes the broadcast says, "We are all Liberians." Enjoy the song and join us tomorrow, same time, 8 p.m. for another show. Thank you and bye-bye.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Our